Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Across the Gridiron. It is here. Finally, we are back. Football is back, Eddie, and not just a run-of-the-mill preseason games. We are back into proper, real-time NFL football. And I am joined to preview and predict some of these games by the man who told me that based on, depending on results on Thursday, he is going to get a number one tattooed across his back. Eddie, my friend, I know you've been hurting over the past couple of weeks. We've recorded the Micah Parsons prediction, but putting all that aside, football is back. Surely you've got to be excited about it.
Yes, I am, Matt. Hope you're well. And thank you all for joining the podcast. We appreciate all of you. And please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, especially the notification bell as well, so that you get all our fresh, new, beautiful UK content coming to you. But listen, week one is here. It seemed like a long time ago. It almost felt like Christmas. You know how people are like counting down the days to Christmas, 100 days to Christmas. I remember when we were saying it was 100 days to the first game of the preseason. Now we're talking about hours to the first game of the season, and so I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking for, games that actually matter, points that actually matter, touchdowns that actually matter, kickoff returns that actually matter. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, you can tell you support a team that posted a 1-2 record in the preseason then. But yeah, look, so this is what we're going to do. Obviously, new season, slightly new formats for this. So every week we are going to predict the scores of 5 games. We're going to focus on one game in particular, which we'll put a bit of a spotlight on, but then we are going to give our predictions for 5 games for each week. And over the course of the season, we will actually tally up who is better at predicting football. Is it me, or is it the self-professed expert of NFL on this podcast, Eddie? Now, last season, Eddie, we did this because I joined the podcast about 2/3 of the way through the season.
Yeah.
So we didn't get a full prediction, but what I will say is, even though we didn't get a full season predictions, I still beat you. Well, which is the main thing that we should focus on.
It was a test run.
It was a test. It was just to see how much. This was you testing me to see how much I really knew about football. Which is obviously still not as much as you, but it was enough to get me to at least beat you in to beat you in the prediction. So yeah, we're going to pick 5 games.
Yeah.
So in terms of the spotlight, the game we're going to focus on first is the big one. Now, we are recording this obviously early in the week. We're recording this before the game happens, obviously. But by the time this video comes out, this game may have already been played, because we're going to focus on the Thursday night football game of the Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, for people who are new to this podcast, hello, welcome. But the first thing to say is this podcast is pretty much very heavily Cowboys focused, and that's not by design. That is just any conversation that we have about any football or any football player, Eddie will try and work the Cowboys into it as much as he can. But we're going to start with them. We're going to start with the Cowboys at the Eagles. So this is your beloved Dallas Cowboys in a divisional game up against the Super Bowl champions in the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, let me just give you a couple of bits to sort of set the stage. Obviously, preseason, as you said, Eddie, the results don't matter. But Cowboys, you are 1-2 in preseason. You've had a few of your rookie running backs have looked fairly promising. Obviously, the big trade is obviously you lost Micah Parsons to Green Bay Packers for Kenny Clark, something we discussed earlier this week in our dedicated Micah Parsons podcast. The Eagles, on the other hand, have been fairly quiet. I think it's fair to say they've acquired a quarterback, obviously for Kent, which is Dorian Thompson-Robinson, but they've been fairly quiet. And hopefully for them, it will be going into business as normal. In terms of some of the projections, the Eagles actually still have the highest projected win total in the NFC. Right, they are still heavy favourites, and as we talked about earlier this week, the Parsons trade has seen the projections of the Cowboys drop to below 8. So a lot of people are predicting a losing season for the Dallas Cowboys. But all that to one side, this is still a one-off game of football. So, Eddie, let's use head over heart. How do you see this game? How do you see this game going?
Oh, it's going to be one way, right? And it's not a Cowboys victory. I mean, we're starting off, hot, just like that, because first game of the Cowboys, and I mean, you don't ever want to say that your team, you're predicting your team to lose, but I just don't know how you're going to do it. I think for me, this game, unveiling of the banner, Super Bowl champions, that's what they do. After you win the Super Bowl, you come in, you unveil the banner. The fans are rocking, everyone's screaming, it's a family affair. Everyone's having, a great time, Super Bowl champions, the other teams are looking at you parading the Super Bowl trophy and thinking, how mediocre they must be looking, just seeing you, doing all of that. But the whistle blows, and I think I'm going to be interested in seeing how the Cowboys defense measure up, against this Eagles attack. Right. So Sam Williams is going to have to be the spotlight, right? So we're going to see how he's going to be handling Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson, who arguably is a Hall of Famer. I'm also interested to see how Josh Pickens fares, right? Because we made a lot of noise about Josh Pickens, the addition to the Cowboys, how he's going to affect the offense. And now you've got two legitimate wide receivers on either side. So we'll see how they set up Quinion Mitchell, from the defense, Cooper DeJean, who was amazing. He also got a pick, in the Super Bowl for the Eagles. So we're gonna see how the Eagles, whether they have the Super Bowl slump, like sometimes happen. I think the only teams that have been immune from that is the Kansas City Chiefs. They always seem to just pick up right where they stopped the previous season. But other teams have found it difficult to go back to back, to the Super Bowl. So I think the Eagles will be hoping that, they can, do that. There's going to be a lot of rookies on show in this game. The Cowboys have got Tyler Booker, as well. He's going to be going against Jalen Carter. Good luck to him, right? Jalen Carter, a stud, right? Taking over from Hall of Fame Zach Martin. You're just thinking, right, okay, what a way to come into the NFL. And you're going against, one of the best D tackle in the business in Jalen Carter. So I just hope, he doesn't, he comes back for the next game. Because this is kind of, how it is when you go to your first day at work and people are like, hope we don't scare you, and you show up the next day back at work. So let's just see, how this, and the thing about the Cowboys is that, they're in a situation whereby I don't think anyone is thinking they're going to win this game, right? So I don't think there's any analyst. I've been looking at people predicting, and nobody's, picking the Cowboys to win. I mean, even some diehard fans, Cowboy fans, will struggle picking the Cowboys to win. But imagine what happens if the Cowboys are able to pull what would undeniably be a shock, right? And some of those players play well against the Eagles. That could give them insane amount of confidence, going into the next couple of games. It's kind of a dream. It's kind of a fairy tale thing. But my prediction for this game is the Eagles win.
Yeah, I think you've got, if you just look at it in blunt, you've got one of the teams here is a clear Super Bowl contender, and you've got the other team who is in turmoil, right? So everything about it screams Eagles, right? The fact that Eagles are at home as well, as you as pointed out, the fact that Eagles are home, they'll be unfurling the banner, there'll be a party atmosphere, and inside the stadium. However, the one thing that I will say is that the Cowboys team who takes the field have a point to prove, right? We talked about in our last episode where we really focused on the Parsons trade, is that if this game was in Dallas, the atmosphere could almost be toxic.
Yeah.
Right. And you see this in a lot of sports, that when you have a toxic environment, sometimes players prefer playing away.
Mm.
They prefer to play on the road because of just how bad and negative a fan base could be. And you know that every missed pass, every fumble, everything is going to go. It's just going to be a magnet for the eye of the crowd. And we talked about how a lot of the Cowboys Nation are split after this. But if it was at home, if you were at home and you went, because you did 2 quick touchdowns and Philly are up by 14, it's not even end of Q1. It will be toxic.
Yeah.
The fact that this is at Philadelphia, it does give the Cowboys an opportunity to go and prove people wrong, put in a performance against a Super Bowl contender, the last year's Super Bowl winners, and show, no, we mean business this season. We are not a one-man team. We're not a one-man defensive team. So there is part of me that thinks there could be a bit of a shot, especially if Philly don't come out all guns blazing. You see it in every test sport. As soon as a team underestimates another team and the occasion gets to them in a way, they walk there, they're going to be unfailing the flag, party atmosphere, maybe they take their eye off the ball. Right? All that being said, the Eagles are going to win. I'm afraid I can't see it.
I was thinking you were gonna do it. I was thinking you were gonna do it.
No. I just think that the Eagles will probably have too much for this Cowboys team in disarray. It wouldn't surprise me if Cowboys did throw a bit of a spanner in the works, but again, Dallas have got big players that need to step up, right? As I said, some of their rookies have been looking good, but this trade, I think, has just knocked the stuffing out of so many of the fans and probably some of the players as well. Yeah. And again, you're coming up against last year's Super Bowl winners, the best team in the whole league last season. I think this is going to be a Phillies win as well. So are we both going for Philly for this one?
Yeah, put that in. Philly in the bank.
Yeah. Okay, so I was going to make a note of that. It's very, very professional for this. Right. Okay, so let's move on to the next game, and let's go for the first of God knows how many international games this season. Yeah. It's the Kansas City Chiefs against the LA Chargers in Brazil.
Yeah, right? It is. So, Samba.
Samba football indeed. So my video's just getting a bit blurry. Let me just change that. So look, let's have a look at, again, the tail of the tape, if you will. Now, we've already said that preseason means naff and it's a good thing for Kansas City because they were 3-0. Sorry, 0-3. Sorry, they lost every single one of their preseason game. They looked incredibly flat throughout August, but they don't showcase their starters heavily. In these games.
No.
I mean, Travis Kelce was off getting hitched, or not getting hitched, get proposing to Taylor Swift. So he had his preseason plan sorted, so he might even be a bit tired as the season comes into it, depending on how good the proposal was. But look, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. They're projected to win about 11 to 12 games this season. They're still the heavy favourites in the AFC West. Huge odds to potentially even go win the Super Bowl again this year against a Chargers team who, 2-2. I think they actually beat the Chiefs in preseason as well this season. And these guys are improving coming into the season. They are viewed as potential dark horses in the AFC, especially if Herbert stays fit. So there's a lot of upside to this Chargers team, but they're against the Chiefs. So Eddie, how do you see this one going?
I want to make a case for the Chargers.
Good. So I was going to do that as well, but I'll let you do it first.
I was going to make a case for the Chargers. And the first thing is the Chiefs are going to be without Rashee Rice, right? He's been suspended for 6 games. And he's undoubtedly the Chiefs wide receiver number 1. So he's not going to be available for this game. So you now have the likes of Hollywood Brown and Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, we know that Patrick Mahomes can pick people out of the street and throw to them, right? So, I mean, that's not in doubt. But, I mean, I think that, this first game of the season is a division game as well. This, I think that the Chargers have got what it takes to upset the Chiefs. And again, there's no home field advantage here, so it's not like this is happening at the Chiefs' kingdom and the noise is going to be raucous and all of that. This is in Brazil. So anything can happen in this game. Justin Herbert, Khalil Mack, these are all, players that are decent. And it's about time Justin Herbert really, started to show his promise, because everyone's been talking about him, promise, 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 but it's time for him to deliver. And there's not a lot of stars, in the Chargers team, but sometimes that's just what you need, right? You don't need too many stars, quote unquote, to have that team and be united, to play the Chiefs. And you know that people are always going to be motivated to play the Chiefs, especially at the start of the season. Because you know what? If you beat the Chiefs, at the start of the season, remember what the Lions did. I think the Lions started the season, beating the Chiefs. You do that and you're like, whoa, okay. That gives you confidence, no end. And it could actually set your season up. So I'm gonna go for the Chargers win. Because it's the first game of the season, and it's the only time I'm probably gonna pick against the Chiefs. But
yeah. You see, I was going to go for a little bit of a dark horse with the Chargers in this one as well, because we talked about the Chiefs. We talked about them a lot last season. They very much 1-0 to the Arsenal all the way through the season last season. They were winning by like 3 points, 1 point. They were winning games that they should have lost, and pretty much right. But every single time we kept saying, "Do not bet against the Chiefs." Until the until the Super Bowl, and then we probably should have bet against the Chiefs. The playing conditions are going to be very different in Rio than they are in Kansas City.
Yeah,
right? It's certainly not going to be minus a million degrees down there. The problem is with the Chiefs, or the thing is for the Chiefs, they have a point to prove. Right? I know I can't remember exactly what the score was. It feels so long ago with the Super Bowl.
They were smashed.
They were smashed. They got quite a few points towards the end, didn't they?
Yes, they got some garbage points. Yeah,
exactly. They made it more respectable. But as you said, they got smashed. They are another team who have a point to prove. Right? They're not going to want to, ball their way to the Super Bowl again. Right? So they are the favourites. ESPN gave them a 75% chance at the playoffs. That seems very low to me. I think the Chiefs have got something to prove, and they're going to have to go. They're going to want to start the season strong. The playoffs at 0-3, it's not losing 20, 29, 27 to the Chargers in preseason isn't going to have a huge impact on this. No. So to be different from you, I'm going to go for the Chiefs to pick up that win. I think so.
Okay.
Just to keep things a little bit interesting. So let's move on to the next game we're going to look at. Like we've talked about your beloved team. Now we're going to talk about mine. I'm going to make this a bit more quicker than yours. We're going to look at the Dolphins, who are at the Colts.
Yeah.
So let's look at the Dolphins first. They were undefeated in preseason, but again, we know it doesn't matter. The backup quarterbacks did well at times. Zach Wilson, who obviously we traded from the Jets, and rookie Quinn Ewers, they had some decent spells. It's been very quiet in the trade market. I think the Dolphins have certainly taken a more development focus in their preseason. Last season, they were coming off an 8-9 year, right? Very middling. Really badly hurt by the injuries to Tua, amongst others. The Dolphins are going to be looking for a playoff return, but that's going to be incredibly tough. And we've talked about in our two early predictions that we both have Bills running away with that division. There is some bounce back potential, but again, that's going to be tough. And they're facing the Colts team who's the main thing that they're doing this season. They're going to be starting the season with Daniel Jones as quarterback, taking the position of Anthony Richardson. They've made no real splashes in the trades, and these are very much considered a low tier team in the AFC. They are rebuilders, if nothing else, with very, very slim playoff odds. So I'm going to start with this one. If the Dolphins are serious about being a playoff team this year, these are the games they have to go and win. They can't be taken seriously if they. I know it's an away game, but if they go to the Colts and they lose, you know McCarthy's under. The manager there, so the head coach at Dolphins is under great pressure and huge pressure this season. He's going to want to start off with a win. So I'm reluctant to back any team that I support ever, but I think Dolphins have to go ahead and win this one. So I'm going for Miami.
Yeah, I mean the Colts haven't won a week one game since 2013. And
Just wait.
that feels like a long time, right? There's probably how old is that Max Dorman? When was he born?
The football.
The 15-year-old.
Stupid age. Stupid age.
So it's a long time. It's a really long time since the Colts have won a week one game. So it doesn't bode well for them. The Dolphins are getting healthy again. Xavien Achane, I know he missed the preseason, but I think he's expected to play in this game. And Dolphins have had a few changes in their back defense. You've had some cornerbacks shakeups, but there is someone who's returning to the Dolphins, Xavien Howard, who used to be a cornerback for the Dolphins, all-pro player, played 8 seasons in the league, all of them with the Dolphins, is coming back. It's about 30-something years old. But in football, that's like 100 years old when you come back to come and play. I don't think he played last year at all, so we'll see how he goes. Daniel Jones is capable of, doing something that you don't expect. But I'm not sure that's going to be week one. I think, with Miami Globetrotters, on the field, Tyreek Hill, Tua, Jalen Waddle, I think this is going to be a bit too much for the Colts. I'm going to go with the Dolphins win in this one. I'm with you on this.
All right, good man. So I hope you're right, Eddie. I really hope you're right. Okay, so let's move into the third game we're going to look at. And I think this is, given everything that's happened in the past week, this is an incredibly tough one to call. This is the Detroit Lions at the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
So let's look at Detroit first. Mixed preseason, especially when they got hammered 26-7 to Houston Texans, which was a big one. Again, fairly quiet, I would say, in trade. No real big splashes. In terms of their overall projections, obviously, a lot of people are expecting some form of regression from last season, where they were 15-2. Right, so they had an incredible season last season, and a lot of people are projecting around 10.5 to 11 wins. So they're still top 5, certainly in the NFC, but I think expectations need to be tempered a little bit. Now, the Green Bay Packers, on the other hand, until this week, very limited highlights in August. Not a lot happened at all. And then obviously the huge splash was, of course, they acquired Micah Parsons from the Cowboys. Which is potentially, certainly on defense, we said, as we talked about in our earlier podcast this week, potentially game changing for them at the back. They really struggled in the pass rush. Sorry, in the pass rush last season. Parsons is going to be a huge addition to an already fairly strong defense, and certainly on the run side. So these guys, the Packers, they're certainly a rising contender in the NFC. Now, before this trade, you probably would have gone for the Lions, you would have thought. But this is at Lambeau Field. There's a chance that Parsons isn't going to play in this game.
Oh, he's going to play.
Well, there's some rumors going around that he's picked up an injury. I'll see if I can find it as you give your thoughts.
Yeah,
but there's a chance he might not play. But again, if he does, even if he gets wheeled out again, this is big season. There's Might be a bit of a party atmosphere in a way. And again, I don't know. This is a really tough one to call. So I'm going to let you have the first crack at this one.
Um, yeah, this is a very difficult game. You've got divisional opponents that um you could argue that these two teams are gonna be in the playoffs, at the end of the season. You can make a strong case for both of them being in the playoffs. The Detroit Lions, the offensive line have had some issues. They've had a couple of players that have left. Um, Kevin Zidler, Frank Ragnow. These are all players that have left the Detroit Lions. The betting markets are suggesting that the Green Bay are opening as 1.5-point favorites. But it just means that the game's going to be close. I'm going to go with Green Bay Packers because of the Micah Parsons effect. I think he definitely has to start in week one. And a 75% Micah Parsons is still a very good Micah Parsons, against any opponent that you put in front of him. So I think you go and acquire a player like this, and I know it's for the long haul and you don't want to jeopardize his health. But if he's in any capacity to go, you want to let him go get rip, at the quarterback. So I'm going to go for a Packers win in this one.
So yeah, so just on that injury then. So just reading the Athletic as we record. So he's managing a facet joint sprain in his back and may need an epidural injection to play on Sunday. Jesus wept. He's been prescribed with a 5-day plan of all kinds of drugs to reduce any inflammation. So as you said, he's managing this injury, shall we say? And I think it's Green Bay have to decide if a 75% fit Parsons is worth the risk against the Lions. But this is a first home game in the season. It's a divisional game, right? And again, if the Packers are serious about a playoff charge, they have to be beating their divisional rivals at home in an earlier. So, again, it's a coin toss. Again, before the trade, I would probably have suggested Lions. This one, I'm not so sure. So I'm also going to stick, and I'm going to agree with you very depressingly. And we're both going to go for Green Bay for this one. I mean, we hope this is going to be a little bit more exciting when we do.
Yeah,
but at least we've got one difference so far.
Yeah, we're definitely going for not predicting the same team, but it's just Jerry Jones. Blame Jerry Jones because you could have
blame Jerry Jones.
You could have been going for the Packers.
Right. Well, let's end on probably, certainly in terms of the actual teams and the quality, this is probably the game of the weekend in a lot of cases. It's the Baltimore Ravens at the Buffalo Bills. So again, the Ravens, let's look at what they've done so far. Preseason, undefeated. They've had some pretty good wins over the Cowboys and the Colts. Haven't been any big trades, but their defense is always looks dominant. And these guys, as always, are a clear AFC contender. They're a legit Super Bowl threats. Certainly with Lamar Jackson leading the line against another team in Buffalo Bills who, again, light moves in the off season to focus on continuity. We are expecting them, or ESPN is certainly projecting them to have a league high points total, right? Yeah. And you've got Josh Allen is already talked about being the MVP player. Obviously, last year it was pretty much a two-way tussle between him and Jackson. So we're starting the season with two potential MVP candidates, a quarterback, going head to head in this, and this is, again, such a fantastic game to start the season with, and it's a very, very hard one to call. How do you look at it?
This game for me, I think is very interesting because the Ravens have got a stats machine team, right? So you just look at that team and you just think about stats, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, you've got Derrick Henry. So you look at that game and you're thinking, okay, this is gonna be stats galore. The Bills, you've got Josh Allen, MVP. Last season, you can't take that away from him. So you're going against two MVP players, one the year before the other. Lamar Jackson 2023, Josh Allen 2024. Some people may say actually that Josh Allen stole the MVP from Lamar Jackson last season, while I would say Lamar Jackson stole the MVP from Dak Prescott the other. So,
Well, of course you would. Of course
potato,
you would. Of course you
potato.
would.
So I think that the Bills, they are. I don't know what to make of the Bills, because they've added a few additions. There's a wide receiver called Joshua Palmer that's been added to the Bills. But I think what Josh Allen showed last season was that he's capable of playing with no recognized number one, and still getting the business done. But I'm gonna take the Ravens in this game. I think that the Ravens always seem to start like a house on fire in the first couple of months in the season. And then the Bills don't kind of start so well, I would say. But I just think about the firepower, that the Ravens have got. And if they just do what they're supposed to do, because this is where teams start to get too clever. And we kept saying that last season, right? You've got Derrick Henry, just run the ball, right? Run the ball. Don't be one-dimensional. You've got a quarterback that is hard, to stop with Lamar Jackson when he's on the move. And Josh Allen is pretty good, but I just think I'm going to give this one to the Ravens.
Okay, well, I did say it was being a bit boring because we were predicting the same things, but I'm actually going to go for Buffalo in this one. Buffalo for me are one of the teams to beat, not only in the AFC, but I think potentially for the Super Bowl as well.
Okay.
I think I don't like Buffalo because I'm not allowed to like Buffalo as they're in the same division as Miami. But I think there is a lot of talk, and has been a lot of talk, because he is without question one of, if not the best quarterback in the league. Right? That franchise has to step up and take him to a Super Bowl. Right? If he wants to go down as one of the best, they can't keep being the bridesmaid, right? They have to prove it. They're gonna win the division. If they don't win the division, it will be an absolute. They've really fumbled the ball. So I think they need to go. They should be going out and make a statement, because again, the top three teams in the AFC have really been the Ravens, the Bills, and the Chiefs.
Yeah,
Bills are at home against the Ravens. They have to go out and make a statement win, I think, against Baltimore. Right. If they lose, they're still going to go into the playoffs, right? So it's not like, this isn't like a season defining game or anything like that. This isn't like a massive overreaction or overhype or anything along those lines. I like the Ravens. I love what they do. I'm thinking more a case of the Bills have to put a marker down, right? So I'm going to go for the Bills in this one. Keep it interesting. Let's mix it up, so it probably means that I'll get one right and you'll get one right, and we'll be pretty much on level. But yeah, that's where we are. So look, the main thing is football, Eddie, is back.
Football is back.
We're finally back. We don't have to talk about trades anymore. We don't have to talk about. We don't have to make up content as the season goes on. I think, what the bloody hell can we talk about? Let's overanalyze a preseason game that no one gives two tosses about. Now the actual stuff starts, and across the gridiron, we are going to try and be with you for at least sort of 2 episodes a week throughout the season, where we'll give our instant reactions on a Monday and our probably incorrect predictions later on in the
I
week.
think we've got
So
a fairly good chance this week because it's week one, right? There is no bias, right? Everyone starts on a clean sheet. It's 0-0 for everyone. So
yeah, well, unless you're Dallas and you're starting with at least a -5 after that
yes,
trade
yes,
deal with
it is
Parsons.
man.
Yes,
Yeah, it's a
absolutely, of
man of
course,
five.
right. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, look, really looking forward to the season, Eddie. Looking forward to talking it through with you every week here across the gridiron. But as always, take us home.
Yes, it's a wrap, guys. And listen, right? We've been waiting. It's been like Christmas. We've been waiting all 6-7 months for the season to start, and it's finally here. And the one thing I love about the NFL is that everything goes out of the window. Terrible teams become good teams become terrible teams. Coaches get fired, players, do crazy things. So I'm here for all of that. But more importantly, I'm here for all of you that hit that like and subscribe button, as well. And let's have your say. Do you agree with our picks, right? Who do you clearly think is going to have the edge? So we want to hear all from you as well. So put that in the comment section and don't forget to hit that notification bell as well. As always, guys, appreciate all of you and we'll see you at the next Across the Gridiron.